And Christian, can I share my screen? I want to make a point on something if you don't mind.
Yes, of course. Give me 1 second. Let me go ahead and give you access to, sharing your screen here. And for those that obviously are joining in, which is excellent, go ahead and put your LinkedIn information and feel free to connect with other individuals, which is awesome. And then I'm going to give you access. There it is. All right, there we go. And then, of course, if you have any questions for John, just put that in the chat. Obviously, I will reach out, or just raise your hand, and we'll call on you, and you can ask
Yeah.
the questions
And
while
let
we
me let me
talk.
make
Go
this
ahead and share your
let me
screen.
make this point before I share my screen. This is a chart that's also for my book. So as a multifamily office, the money that we oversee for clients, the vast majority of it, we're directing it. But a lot of our clients, over half, have money elsewhere because they may have they have had investment advisors before they came to us. A lot of times, they come to us when they have had an exit, but they may say, I want to keep $10 million at this RIA or at Northern Trust or Morgan Stanley or Merrill Lynch or whatever. And we're like, great. So every night we download from over 75 broker dealers and banks, because that's where our clients have money. So for the last, our company's almost 22 years old. So for the last 21 and a half years, we have gotten to see not just what these other firms say they do, we get to see what they really do. And I'm going to tell you what really happens out there, which is most portfolios underperform the market or some sort of blend. Take a 70-30 blend. They underperform it. And even university endowments. And here's what I'm going to share here. If you can see this. Christian, can you see this?
Yes.
Okay, so over on the left is just a naive sort of 70-30. That's, overweighted to compared to global, overweighted to domestic, which is usually how people invest in the US. But just, three easy, index. We basically got the Vanguard, all US, and the Vanguard all world ex-US, and the Bloomberg Ag and a bit of cash. Over on the right is, there's this study that gets put out every year of all the university endowments. There's 750 of them that report. And if you take all the endowments, all 750, and you average out their asset allocation, this is what they do on the right. And this is called the endowment model. And the bigger endowments, will have even more private equity and hedge funds, and the smaller ones have a bit less. But I think it's fascinating is that so much of the high net worth and ultra high net worth investment community has moved to where they want to do the right-hand side, because they want the returns of Yale and Stanford and Harvard, and in Washington University, where I actually teach 2 classes, has been in the, was number 1 2 years ago and has been in the top 5 for each of the last 5 years. So they want to have those returns, so they invest over like on the right. But here's the comparison between all those endowments average, most of whom have over $1 billion and have professional investment staffs or consultants, and the 70-30 index. And as you can see, it's indistinguishable. So this is through fiscal year 2021 for these endowments. So you can see over the last 15 years, the 70-30 index, using just Vanguard funds, has slightly outperformed all university endowments. And the point I want to make on this is there's a lot of time and effort spent on creating portfolios like over on the right. And really, it's really hard to beat a 70-30 allocation. And in fact, I was at a investment conference in 2012, and it was of single family offices. It was all single family offices than me. Fidelity put it on. And they gave us 6 different investment committees. So there was 36 of us. And they said, we would like you to propose on how to invest a family that has just after tax received $1 billion from exiting a business. And this is investment committee number 5 in 2012. And the first 5 were all like this in different ways. But look at what we're invested in here. I mean, farmland and idiosyncratic credit and infrastructure, and just on and on and on. So this is how they invested. And I'll tell you that I was part of investment committee number 6, and I presented. And what I presented with my investment committee was, this is how we would invest the $1 billion. And everybody laughed. But what I said is, how many of you that have suggested an investment portfolio like this, how many of you, raise your hand if you have over an 80% certainty that you will beat this? And nobody raised their hand. And at dinner that night, I talked to a guy that ran a $15 billion single family office. And he said, I'll tell you what, we have absolutely underperformed a 75-25 like you proposed. But to change, I'd have to fire all 14 members of my investment staff. And the family wouldn't want that because they don't want to show up at a conference or talk to their friends and say, all we have is 2 funds. And so how did this do? So we've recreated investment committee number 5, and it returned 8.2% annualized from 2012 through 2022. And that's what the 75-25 has done. And that doesn't even include taxes. Like the taxes on that investment portfolio number 5 are ridiculous. And the taxes on the 75-25 are almost nothing. And the behavior is easier. And the reason I'm bringing this up is like, it's super fun for all of us to go to conferences and to get on webinars and talk about this and talk about that. And should we move in this and that? But I want you to know that most everybody out there, regardless of their level of expertise, is underperforming that 75-25 or that 70-30. Absolutely. In fact, the chair of Washington University's endowment, I had him speak at one of my classes, and he said that they were one of those universities underperforming the 70-30, and said, yes, most university endowments are underperforming the 70-30. And the way they were able to vault into, the number one endowment just within a few years is they basically fired their entire staff, and they are not investing in the huge private equity firms. They're doing smaller ones, and they're taking a stand. Like they are really relying on really talented private equity and venture capital, getting access to that, and then not over diluting their returns. And they realize it's going to be a wild ride. And in fact, 2022 was horrible for them because 2021 was so amazing. They had a 65% return in 2021. But that's what you need to do. And I will tell you, almost nobody has the chops to be able to do that. People give up on their strategies, or they don't have access, or they don't have the investment staff. So I'll just say, everybody on this call, like, sure, investing in private equity and venture capital, private real estate is great. We do it for our clients, but it's probably best to mainly just index and, do some here and there, and maybe go spend, if you're really wealthy, go spend more time and effort trying to do a better job of estate planning for something that you can say, I will tell you that is the most overlooked area for the ultra high net worth. And they'll do these estate plans and they're like, oh, sure, I have a will. I've done this little transaction or whatever. But the number of clients come to us that have expected tax bills of 20 or 50 or $100 million. We had somebody that came to us, and we only worked with her for a year. We took on the family. The matriarch died, and they owed $75 million. Like, if they'd come to us a decade earlier, it would have been $7 million. And they spent all this time running around trying to chase a little bit of investment outperformance and completely ignored their, doing appropriately aggressive estate planning. And I really think that that's one of the main things that people should be focused on, and just relax a little bit about the investment stuff and just go, okay, I'm going to mainly index and I'm just going to move on with life.
Well, I love what you said in regards, and I appreciate you bringing and sharing your screen in regards to that data-driven approach, where it said there is no direct correlation between the more complex this kind of portfolio, it creates an outsized return, and it doesn't, as you just stated.
It's negatively correlated for most people.
And I think that's really, really prevalent and really important.